A powerful discussion. We're going live today. Let me get my people on. Welcome to the Dr. Gio White Show, where I'll be talking about 10 Black family restoration recommendations. These are 10 Black family restoration recommendations. What do I mean by that? I'm saying on tonight, I'm going to be having a conversation about 10 steps, 10 things. If you have a struggling family, if you got a fragile family, these are 10 things, 10 steps that I want people to consider in the journey of restoring and strengthening the family. So I'm being authentic with this. I think this is by all accounts a very important discussion that we're going to have here today. So you all get some people on. Let somebody know that we are about to have a conversation. If you all know folks who have fragile families, if you all know someone whose relationship and people are moving and acting and talking on eggshells, this is the show. This is the one that you all got to let somebody know about, because these are the restoration recommendations. So let's get people on. This is Haroon Join. Glad to see you. Glad to have you on. Randy No Sauce Barbecue. What's going on? That's my little brother, y'all. Today we're talking about 10 Black family restoration recommendations. So y'all get somebody on. Y'all bring people on, because this one, I'm going to say this is going to be a good one here, because this one here are actionable steps. These are things I'm literally telling people that to take under consideration to strengthen the family. Gwen, good to see you. David, for you. Good, glad to have you. Minister Brian, I love when I see ministers pop on here. Rev, use these recommendations. Take them under consideration. Share these with someone. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White. You just call me the TikTok doc. And this is an exciting and brilliant time, wonderful time for everybody to come in. And so let me begin, you all. For those of you who are watching, tell someone, right? So let me begin with an analogy that many witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during this time, y'all just keep this in mind. During this time when the pandemic first hit, doctors realized quickly that something was important. Not every person faced with the virus were hit the exact same way. Those with pre-existing health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and respiratory illnesses were far more impacted, far more vulnerable, and their illness were far more severe, even to the point of death. So I'm going somewhere with this, you all. So research, when they were looking at COVID, research consistently showed that the underlying conditions dramatically increased the likelihood of hospitalization and mortality, right? Watch this, y'all. This is amazing, right? And so we see that there was a direct connection when we saw hospital and in the matter of mortality. In fact, listen to this, y'all. The studies found that around 94% of the people who died of COVID-19 had at least one underlying health condition or contributing factor. Now, right now, somebody might be saying, so what does this have to do with the Black family restoration recommendations? You'll see in a second here. Similarly, think about this. Data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention showed that more than 81% of the COVID deaths occurred, watch this, y'all, among people over the age of 65, and the risk of severe illness increased as the number of underlying conditions increased. So y'all pay attention to what's about to happen now, right? So we see that the direct correlation between the pre-existing health conditions and COVID mortality. So what does that mean? It means that the virus didn't impact everybody equally. The strongest immune systems were better able to withstand the crisis, right? While those with the fragile health conditions were more likely to be vulnerable. So here we go, coach. Check this out. So now here's the connection with the family. Just like the human body has an immune system, families have a social, emotional immune system as well. So what is that immune system for the families? Some families have strong foundations, such as communication, commitment, shared values, economic stability, strong parenting structures. Hopefully you see where I'm going with this, Edward Howard. Check it out. So these were strong pre-existing health immune systems for a lot of people. So when the crisis hit, whether the crisis is poverty, incarceration, substance abuse, unemployment, trauma, even COVID, those families are better able to withstand the storm. So you all see right now the stronger pre-existing health condition of the family makes it possible to withstand some of those unexpected impacts in family. So Gabby, hopefully I'm making sense. Glad to see you on here, right? So when the crisis hit, everyone with the strong family immune systems were able to withstand them and get through them. But when the family already have pre-existing health conditions, father absence, generational trauma, listen, y'all, broken communications, economic instabilities, those crises hit much harder. Trauma, poor communication, lack of trust, these are pre-existing health conditions. And so when families are fragile, you all, around those issues, then anything outside the home can have a devastating impact. So what am I doing today? So tonight, you all, I'm going to talk about how to strengthen the immune system of the Black family. Now, understand this. I'm saying Black family, but these recommendations that I give, they're important for everyone to understand. Now, I have 10. I'm going to do my best to cover as many of them as I can tonight. But I want you all to write these down. I want you all to focus and pay attention. And I have some questions with regard to these. And so first I'm going to do, I'm going to give you all the 10, right? And then we're going to move and go through them, right? So the first one, right? These are how to restore, how to strengthen the family. So first is healing, right? And I'll get into it. Second is willing. Third is feeling. Fourth is to communicate, right? Number 5 is to accentuate. Number 6 is to deliberate. Number 7 is family structure. Number 8 is spirituality. Number 9 is ritual. And number 10 is strengthening traditions. So I just gave them all to you, but now I want us to kind of prepare to really kind of jump into these. All right. So glad to have you on, Jay. Good to see you. Who else we got on here? Because I want to bring people in. I want y'all to let somebody know. Mitch, good to see you. Glad to have you on here. Siren Moore, good to see you. Jordy, glad to have you on. I'm gonna bring some of y'all on at some point to engage in these discussions with me, right? So Ace, I'm a Ace too. So, but Ace, glad to have you on. So you all are taking a look at it. So now we know what the 10 restoration recommendations are. Let's go into each one of them. And y'all help me out. I want your input because right now, there's someone who's on this live with you right now that will realize, based off of what I said, that their family's immune system might be a little weak. There's someone right now struggling in relationships, the family dealing with trust issues. These are the immune systems that we're talking about. Jetson, good to see you. So let's take a look at these. So the first step in the restoration recommendation, and it kind of makes sense, you all. The first one is healing. Ultimately, we must begin our own healing process, right? We must begin our own healing process. A healing mindset makes listening, understanding, and forgiveness possible. So the first one I'm offering up to you all is healing. Now, in everything I do when it comes to change, I always say start with myself, then my family, cover the block onto the community. And so healing, as you see here, begin with our own healing process. Some of us have come into marriages. Some of us have come into relationships. We know our brokenness. We know our traumas. We know and we've seen probably from past relationships, many of them probably presented with the same issue, right? So the healing is the first step towards the restoration recommendation. So for everyone who's on, I need y'all to help me out here. What is harder for most people, to forgive someone else or forgiving oneself, right? Tell me in the comments, which is harder to do, to forgive someone else or to forgive yourself, right? So now y'all ponder on that, because the healing is the first part. And yes, I'm saying that you have to actually learn to forgive yourself. So which is harder? Um, can't wait to see these comments, because I'm telling you, I'm curious. Which is harder, to communicate, to forgive yourself or to forgive someone else, right? So that's the first step in the healing. The first step in the restoration recommendation is healing. And the question I'm posing under this first one, good to see you, JT, which is harder to do, to forgive someone else or to forgive yourself? And why is that? To forgive someone else. Someone has apologized, someone has hurt you. Is it harder, you all, for you to forgive them than it is when you've done something and being able to forgive yourself? Right. And so think about that. I want you all to really ponder that, because these recommendations are real. They're real life tools. They're real life thoughts that I'm inviting everyone to take under consideration, because this is a healing process and we're beginning it on the ground floor, right? A great organization belong to, we always start about meeting on the ground floor. They call that square work, right? So we begin on the ground floor, right? So which is tougher to do? Learning to forgive someone else or being able to forgive yourself, right? And so as we contemplate that, I'm going to tell you that both of them are difficult. But here's what I've come to realize is that, and they're equally as difficult. But here's what I come to realize, that learning to forgive yourself for some of the stuff that you've done, it begins with overcoming the denial. And we're going to talk about the stages of change later on. But learning to forgive yourself is recognizing that you could have done some things differently. You could have said some things a little differently, right? You've made some mistakes and then you find yourself focused on them. So that's why I want to know, and we pay attention to that. So the healing I'm going to offer up is the very first step. And in that first step, I'm going to tell everyone here to learn to forgive yourself, right? And so some mistakes were big accidents, and some mistakes, there are things that you've done and you later realize that they were a mistake. So learning to forgive yourself makes learning to forgive others even that much more possible. And watch this. Um, and being able to forgive someone else is a little easier when you can realize and reflect and focus on the number of times that somebody's forgiven you. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, there's a big difference between forgiving and forgetting. I never tell people, and some things that are literally impossible to forget. But forgiving it is, and it begins with starting with yourself. So that's number one that I'm offering up here, because I'm curious to know what you all think. Pizzy Allen, what do you think? Is it harder to forgive yourself or to forgive someone else? Let's say, really, which is easier? Which is harder to do? Can you forgive someone else or forgiving yourself? Y'all take inventory of that. That's the first step in the restoration. That's the first step in the restoration recommendation. Remember, you all, this what I'm talking about and what I'm giving you all is how to strengthen the family's immune system, right? Pizzy Allen, see what I'm saying? Start with myself, then the family, cover the block, onto the community. That is the priorities, literally in that order. that I'm offering up. So learning around healing self, healing family, healing on the block, and then ultimately in community. And when I say community, I'm talking about our people. Number one, healing. Now, this second one that I'm offering up for you all, where are my comments at? I know people are making comments. The second one here is willing, right? So we talked about healing, right? Because we fully realize that healing is impossible, is very important. But this one here, you all, is different. Willing, being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings, and um, commit to personal improvement. Let me say that again. Number two is willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement. You all, let me tell you, a lot of us have entered relationships and have followed us. Our childhood traumas have followed us everywhere, right? And we have seen how those traumas and young adult traumas, you all, we've seen how those traumas show up in our immediate relationships. We've seen how those traumas show up in our family. You all, some of our traumas are in our anger and everything that is manifest. Those traumas are manifested in. It literally shows up in many ways. And so, Runaway, good to see you. SP, glad to have you on, y'all. So we just talked about healing. Now we're dealing with willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement, right? So that willing. So here's the question, all right? Here's the question here, all right? Be honest. When you're in an argument, when there's an argument in a relationship, who apologizes first or more often, men or women? When there are arguments in relationships, who tend to apologize first or more often, the men and women? And why do you think that is? Right? So, because this is willing, willing to acknowledge your own, but who's more likely to acknowledge those faults sooner? Right? So these are the 10 restoration recommendations, y'all. And right now, I'm just on number 2, willing. Willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement. So y'all help me out there. Who tends to apologize first? I'm going to say, well, no, I don't have an answer. I'm not going to answer that up. There's no specific data that says men or women are more likely to apologize. But what we do know in that is that when you can acknowledge your own faults, and brothers and sisters, let me say this, and I say this sometime in my sessions, you all, I've been working with couples and families and individuals now for more than 30 years. And I sometimes tell people to do this. Even if no one else is around, you go and you find a mirror and you have that conversation with yourself. Willingness sometimes look like this. It looks like literally looking in the mirror and saying to yourself, your ass was wrong. You know you was wrong, right? Yeah, that person had something to do with it too, but you were wrong. You were the one who really started this. You woke up with that attitude, right? So willingness is about acknowledging your faults. You know that even though you said that you were cool the last time, you didn't. Why? Because the 3 biggest lies that we tell ourselves is that I'm going to let it ride, I'm going to let it slide, I'm going to let it go. But the truth is we don't let it ride, slide, or go. We hide it, we deposit it, we put it on the emotional shelf, we save it for the next time. So willing is being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement. For you Bible folks, one of those scriptures that I love is that when Jesus said that he who's without sin cast the first stone. But that's not the part that impresses me about that part of the scripture. What impresses me most about that part of the scripture, if y'all read the question, you'll see the first people to drop their stones and walk away were the elders, right? That means the folks who got more dirt, who got more, who that fault lies on most. So being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement. I'm going to argue, becomes a very critical second step in the restoration recommendation. So y'all come on in. Y'all tell somebody. Dr. White, the TikTok doc, is dropping right now on these 10 restoration recommendations. And he's already talked about healing. He always said that we have to begin with our own healing process. And that he said that healing is a mindset which involves listening, understanding, and that's what makes forgiveness possible. And then Dr. White started talking about willingness. And Dr. White said that being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and commit to personal improvement is the second important step. Blake, glad to have you. 1995, glad to have you on. So you all, this second restoration recommendation is all about you, my brothers, all about you, my sisters, all about you, family. Willing to acknowledge your own faults. Now, let me say this. Some of you have such a strong defense mechanism, right? Some of you, your defense mechanism is that you can project and you can deflect, that you will hijack a scenario where someone has come to you and and listen to this, you all, you know that you've wronged them. You know that what you said could have been said differently. You know, for some of you, that you may have tried to sound as honest and sincere as possible, but you know deep down that shit hurt. You know what you said really hurt someone. Let me give y'all an example of this, the healing and the willingness in a session. Y'all pay attention to this. I'm working with a couple. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And they're dealing with communication. Two big things happen in there. So one that I bring to your attention is that this was, well, you'll see what the session centered around. But the brother in the scenario, in the case, he was going off and he was trying to make an argument about her lack of trust and her issues, or what he called her ongoing issues in the relationship. Watch this healing and willing in motion, you all. And he said, Dr. White, I kind of understand. See, she has trust issues. And listen what he said. He said, Dr. White, these trust issues are long before me. You see, she was molested as a child. And so because she was molested by a male family member, Dr. White, she's had a lot of trust issues. And so those same trust issues on me. Now, for me, I looked at him and I said, wow, congratulations. That's well done. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, the way you did that. He said, the way I did what? I said, well, the way she shared something very vulnerable to you, right? She shared to you that she was molested as a child, and you weaponized that piece to her. I said, you think that her trust issues are connected to her maltreatment as a child? You don't think it has anything to do that she found out that you had been sexting some other woman? You don't see that. And what am I getting at? Is that gentleman in that moment, he weaponized her story, and he used it as a defense mechanism. So willingness, you all, which is why I'm asking in this, who apologizes first in relationships? Does it tend to be men or women? Because willingness, like I said, which is number 2 in this, is being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and then committing to personal improvement. So that's just number 2 in this process. And I'm wondering what you all think. I just gave you all number 1 is healing and number 2 is willing. And I'm just kind of curious to know what you all think about that as a process. Are you willing to acknowledge your faults? And listen to this, you all, and not just to yourself. Are you willing to acknowledge your faults to the person you may have injured? Y'all want to hear something crazy? There's some people who realize in the midst of an argument, but they were wrong. But when their emotions take over, it sounds like this. Yeah, I know I'm wrong, but I'm not going to give her ass I'm not going to give her ass the pleasure knowing that I'm wrong. Yeah, I know that was wrong, but I ain't going to say nothing because it's going to go to his head. Y'all see what I'm saying? So we will find literally a creative way to deflect that willingness. And so, but what I'm saying here, you all, is that willingness and acknowledging your own faults and shortcomings, and then commit to personal improvement. And sometimes, you all, in that process, it means sharing. You know, when you can authentically say to someone, I didn't communicate that right to you. When you can honestly and authentically say that, you know what, I can see how that may have hurt you. You all, would y'all believe that validation, right? That validation just simply means that you may have hurt someone even if it wasn't intentional. You may have hurt someone. And here's what people do, y'all. Back to the healing and willing piece. Some people will do this. They'll go, "Yeah, well, I didn't mean to hurt you. That was an accident. So you really shouldn't feel that way because I didn't mean to do it. So I'm trying to figure out why you tripping and it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it." Right. So here's the analogy that I'm going to give for those of you who use that form of communication when you hurt someone. Here's the analogy that I'm giving. Imagine if I'm swinging a bat irresponsibly around you and I accidentally hit you in the head. Or imagine if I have you holding a nail, and I'm hitting that nail in with a hammer and I accidentally hit your hand, and now that shit hurts. Maybe the hand hurt or the head hurt, and then I look at you and say, it was an accident. The question I have for you all, does that stop the head from hurting? Does that stop the hand from hurting because they said it was an accident? Well, what if I bought you flowers and deeply apologize? Will that stop the pain? No, it doesn't. The truth is that even when we don't intend to hurt someone, we have to validate that it still hurts. And sometimes the worst thing you can do is say, well, I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't mean to do that, because that does not make the pain go away. So being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and then committing to personal improvement, I think is a vital, important step in this process. So number one is healing, and number two is willing. Y'all, I know I'm stretching it. But I want to give you all the analogies. I want to give you all the examples in this process. Number three, right? So we got healing, we got willing. So number three I offer up to y'all is feeling, right? Feeling. Now watch this, you all. Now here's where the intimacy in the relationships begin to kick in, you all. Feeling. It is better to communicate your true feelings, such as hurt, disappointment, fear, shame, than to hide them behind a single emotion, anger. So feelings means literally articulating a particular feeling. That's why I'm saying it's better to communicate the feeling. But this is what we do. We'll cold talk. So Dot Horn, let me give you an example of cold talk, right? So this is cold talk. You hurt my feelings. And instead of saying what you said was very hurtful, then I turn around and say, you know what? Dot Horn, you be on some bullshit, right? Dot Horn, now I'm using my emotional vocabulary to articulate that you've hurt me. However, if I say to you, right, this is what feeling looks like. So if I say to you, if I say you lied to me and it hurt, if I say to you, you promised that you were going to do that and you didn't, you let me down. So now when I'm articulating the actual emotion and it hurt, and when I'm able to articulate the emotion, then sometimes the dealing with the emotion is not as defensible as it is my emotional vocabulary. So if the primary emotion I'm most familiar with is my anger, and then I go to F off, right? And so now every time I'm hurt, I go to F off. And instead of telling you exactly what it was that hurt me, I use my emotional vocabulary and I cuss you out or go off on you in that regard. Now, here's the problem. Now I'm calling you names, I'm going off on you. And now, here we are, you all. This is why I talk about feelings. Write this down. Turned up people like to turn people up. Let me say that again. Turned up people like to turn people up. And so here's what I mean when I say it's better to communicate your feelings such as hurt, disappointment, fear, and shame than to hide them behind a single emotion. Because if the only emotion that I know is anger and rage, and you say something to me, or you hurt me, or you disappoint me, or you let me down, or you broke a promise, and then I cuss you out, and then I began to call you everything other than a child of God, then the problem is what gets lost in all of that is the actual feeling that I've experienced, right? Let's see. Sadwich said, I took the state exam today. I think I passed it. I won't know until Monday, though. You know what? I'm going to be praying for you. The feeling, right? Focus on that feeling. And I'm going to say this here is that if it is your season, if it is your season and you pass, then I'm going to congratulate you. All right. So if this is your season and you pass the exam, then we celebrate. But even if it's not your season, understand that your season come along. Y'all see how that is? So that's a feeling. So we see and hear someone is waiting to see if they pass this exam, and they're waiting for it. So now we have excitement, we have anxiety, we have nervousness, we have all those things. But that person could have just said, man, that exam was a bunch of bullshit. Right. And so then the anxiety gets lost. So if I'm supposed to be encouraging and providing some strength and some good language around the season, then it's better to communicate the feeling. You got this. If this is your season, we're going to celebrate. Right. Relief, I'm happy. I don't have to study. I got you. Well, good. Now, in the realm of feeling, that's what we celebrate. You don't have to study anymore. You've got that behind you. So let's wait. But like one of my favorite poems, If by Rudyard Kipling, when he said, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, right? So that just simply means being patient, you all. So here are the pieces here. And I want you to celebrate. I want you to celebrate that you took the exam. I want you to celebrate that you stuck to it and you got through it. So you all, we're talking about 10 family restoration recommendations. I started this conversation by using the example of COVID. And I talked about when the pandemic hit, I said people with pre-existing health conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and all these other kind of conditions, we saw the CDC, I told you all, saw very, very quickly that people with pre-existing health conditions were the ones who were impacted mostly, and 94% of the mortality, those who died, they saw had pre-existing health conditions. I use the analogy of pre-existing health conditions to talk about the pre-existing health condition of the family. And what I told you all is that just like the human immune system, I said the family has an immune system as well. And I gave you all some important examples of the family's immune system: communication, commitment, shared values, economic stability, strong parenting, good communication, trust. These are pre-existing health conditions. And I offered up for you all that when a crisis kicks in with the family, depending on how the family immune system stands up, then that family will be able to withstand whatever happened. What I mean by that, right? Healing, willing, feeling. What am I talking about here? I'm saying someone loses their job. Imagine someone who's had a job their entire life and then suddenly have lost their job. Does the family then begin to cave in and the conflicts begin to occur? That is the test, right, of the immune system. So this is why I'm saying we pay attention. And so now what I'm doing in that analogy is that I'm giving 10 restoration recommendations that are designed to improve the family's immune system. So I said first was healing, right? The ultimate, which I said ultimately, we must begin our own healing process. A healing mindset makes listening, understanding, and forgiveness possible. And then I said willing, right? Being willing to acknowledge your own faults and shortcomings and personal improvement. And then we made our way to feeling, right? It is better to communicate your true feelings, not hide them, right? But your true feelings, such as hurt, disappointment, fear, and shame, than to hide them behind a single emotion of anger. And so we start pushing here and understanding this. And that's when I asked about when we think about our feelings, who do you think? Well, let me put it this way. Why do you think so many people express anger instead of expressing hurt? Right? Why? This is my question. Why do you think so many people express anger instead of expressing hurt when they really are hurt? Why does it tend to show up so often in the form of anger? And have you ever done that yourself? Right? So think about this. We're talking about feelings. And I said that it's better to communicate your feelings such as hurt, anger, disappointment, and shame than to hide them behind a single emotion. And so now the question I'm posing here, and I'm trying to see here, the question I'm posing here is, why do you think people express anger instead of expressing hurt? Good to see you, Philly Green. So I'm very curious about that, because when we began to look at that and understand, we'll learn very quickly that anger is an emotion that most people are familiar with. So why do you all think that? Why is it easier to express my anger when I'm hurt? Why is it easier to go to F off? Why is it easier to curse and yell? And that the actual feeling, you disappointed me. You let me down. The promise you said you was going to keep, you didn't keep. Why is it easier to just go to F off than to express the actual feeling that you have? And so I'm kind of curious to know that for a lot of people, because some of you, that may be you. You may be like the hamster on the wheel. When you get upset, for some people, your emotions, your anger is like the hamster on the wheel. You're very, very predictable. You're so predictable. Some of us around our feelings, and we're so connected to our anger that we use anger for everything. We promote anger when something scares the hell out of us. We promote anger sometimes when we're happy. We definitely promote anger, bring anger forward when we are let down. So you all drop a comment in there for me. Let me know and answer that question for me. Why do people express anger instead of expressing hurt? And which do you do? If Which do you tend to do? Do you express the anger, or do you tend to express the hurt? I'm kind of curious. Andre Sutton, glad to have you on. Good to see you. We're talking about 10 Black family restoration recommendations. These are some concrete things I'm challenging people to take under consideration for themselves, in the journey of improving themselves and in improving their family. And so we're looking at them right now. We're talking about feelings. And feeling is a very sensitive thing. Now, you brothers, especially, because we men, we have been socialized, especially men, we've been socialized to hide our hurt. We are not likely to tell our spouse or girlfriend what you said was very hurtful. We'll even show that up in the form of withholding love, affection, or doing something to hurt someone. Y'all think about this. Here's an interesting thing about feelings. That some people's emotions and feelings, when those emotions become so intense, right? So the more emotional we become, you all, we go from being logical to illogical. We go from being reasonable to unreasonable. We go from being rational to irrational. The more emotional we become, we go from being reasonable to unreasonable. We go from responding, right? That means listening and seeking to get understanding, and we go to being reactionary. Reactionary means those are actions before thoughts. Response is thoughts before the action. And so when we're really looking at this, and the question is for some of us, that we are so in tune with our anger that it becomes a thing that we know more than anything. And so that's why I'm posing that question. Why do people tend to express their anger as opposed to articulating that they're hurt? So that's a reasonable, rational, and authentic question for you to pose And again, a lot of this is introspect. Why? That you all don't lose the point that I made in these 10 family restoration recommendations. Remember, I'm saying Black family restoration, but these recommendations apply to everybody, right? And I'm sitting up here and I'm telling you all that when it comes to true impact, start with myself, then the family, cover the block, on to the community. Start with myself, right? That's what we're looking at right now. This inventory about my healing, my willing, and my feelings. Start with myself and then focus on the family, right? Why am I giving you all this? Y'all probably heard this on my YouTube page or my podcast. There's something fundamentally wrong if the world loves you, the community loves you. Some of you all are so involved in the things in your community, and you get high praise, but your family, your wife, or your children, they can't stand you. Your husband can't stand you. And so that means that you sometimes have to come home. That's why I say start with the self, then the family, cover the block, onto the community. Some of you are excellent at communicating your feelings to coworkers, to clients, communicating with your friends. But when it comes to your spouse, your children, those who are closest to you, and then something happens. So that's why I'm saying it is better to communicate your true feelings. That's the part I want y'all to get lost. Your true feelings, right? Such as hurt, disappointment, fear, shame, abandonment, rather than hide them behind the single emotion of anger. And so I'm giving that up because I think that that's absolutely critical in our process. Number 4, communicate. Now, this is what I need you all to understand about this. And this is very difficult because the enemy to communicate is emotions. But I'm still going to take a shot and offer this up to you. Under communicate, and y'all write this down. Somebody write this down. Here we go. It is better to talk when emotions are low and to listen when emotions are high. It is better to talk when emotions are low and to listen when emotions are high, but seek clarity at every opportunity, right? So I'm giving you all that because I think it is absolutely important in our communication efforts. And here's the 4-step process. Y'all go to my YouTube page, the Dr. Jill White Show, and you all can really delve into and watch any of my podcasts. But this one here, The Art of Listening, which appears in an article in the book I'm working on right now, The Art of Listening. Here's how to listen, you all. Because a lot of times conflicts occur. And the reason why the conflicts occur a lot of times is because people don't have a full understanding of what they agree with or what they disagree with. So the art of listening looks like this. First, I'm going to listen. Step 1. Now, here's what some people do. I disagree with you, but they didn't demonstrate that they even understand you. So the first thing under communicate, remember, it's better to talk when emotions are low and to, it's better to talk when emotions are low and to listen when emotions are high. So first step in communication is just listening. The second step in the communication is to demonstrate your understanding. And so what that means is it goes like this. So let me get this right. Are you saying, right? Now, again, I'm not telling you whether or not I agree or disagree. I'm just demonstrating my communication. So what does that mean? I'm going to play back Ryan the Legend. I'm going to play back in the art of listening because the first thing I do is just that I'm going to listen. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play back to demonstrate whether or not I understand. So that's step 2 in the art of listening. So I'm going to turn around and say, so did I get that right? Right now, if I play back what I think I heard and the person said, no, that ain't what the hell I said, then I'm going to go back to number 1 again and I'm going to listen again. And then I'm going to go back to number 2. Okay, let me make sure I got your point. So are you saying, and then I'm going to play it back. I'm going to summarize it, reframe it, right? And I'm going to play it back again. I still haven't told them I agree or disagree. Right now, under the communication phase, I'm just trying to get an understanding. So now, after doing that a few times, the person says, yes, that's what I'm saying. So now I'm going to get step 3. This is confirmation. So I do understand what you're saying. Yes, you understand what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to tell you I agree or disagree. Now, how the emotional people go, well, then you don't understand. As if somehow to agree is to understand, and to understand is to agree. So to not agree means so that you don't understand. That's how that's emotional logic. True logic says that it is possible for me to understand and agree or disagree. But the problem in communication is that, and here's where the problem is. Good to see you, Pamela Brown. Here's where the problem is that in the area of communication, which is why when the emotions are low, and let me let y'all in on a secret. It is difficult for people to escalate when you ask questions because they got to come down off the emotions to answer the question, or they got to, if they're yelling, they got to come down off the emotion to make sure they understand what you said. So when we talk low, right, that's why I said it's better to communicate when the emotions are low and to listen when the emotions are high, because now not only in that I'm going to be asking questions. So again, in the art of listening around communication, I'm demonstrating and I'm going to get confirmation that I understand your point. Once I have successfully got confirmation that I understand your point as well as the emotion, once I've gotten that confirmation, and then it is at that point I'm going to tell you I agree or disagree. Now, someone's going to say, no, you don't understand. Now I get to stop and say, no, because you already told me that I understood. It's quite possible that I just literally disagree. Now, you all under communication, you have to understand this little tricky thing about anger, you all. And I'm going to offer this up. Some of you, your anger is so powerful and you emote with such a level of intensity that while it not only is the true feeling you're having lost, but some of you, because your anger is so intense, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Do y'all know that some people would rather agree with you than to watch you turn up? Y'all realize that some people literally in the realm of listening would rather lie to you and agree with you to avoid you turning up on them. And some people, you know that that there's a cost with being authentic and honest with you. And the cost with being authentic and honest with you is that you shut them down. So that's why I'm telling you all in number 4, when we talk about communicate, learning to listen when your emotions are low. Kenyatta, good to see you. It's why I'm saying it's very important to communicate when your emotions are low, because it allows for you to listen, right? So let's settle this night. It is better to address problems immediately or is it better? And this is what I'm going to offer you all on in the realm of communication. All right. Is it better to address problems immediately or take time to cool off before talking about them? Which is better, to address it immediately or to take some time to cool off before you come back and discuss them, right? So Billy Green said, take the time. All right. It is better to take the time. And that's what I'm agreeing with. And that's what I want you all to see, that why it is better, right, to take the time. Sometimes it is better to take the time to cool off. But Billy, this is what I'm going to say. If you're in a relationship and things start to get hot and someone calls time off, you all have to have predetermined. Watch this. 5 minutes. We'll resume this conversation in 5 minutes or 7 minutes. The worst thing, so taking the time to cool off is not good when there's no preset time. So that means that if I'm hot and I call time out, then I'm going to say, you know what? Let me come down. Give me 20 minutes. Give me 20 minutes. We'll come back. And a lot of times, the purpose of that 20 minutes, here you go, y'all, allow the energy to begin to dissipate. This is why I'm saying that it's better to talk when the emotions are low and to listen when the emotions are high. These restoration recommendations, you all, I'm telling you, are absolutely critical. So yes, I want you to take the time. I think it is important, but I'm going to say this here, that there's a risk Because I asked, is it better to address a problem immediately? Some things do have to be addressed immediately. All right. But I just told you prior to that, I just told you that if your primary communication style is anger, then it's not in that person's best interest to even respond or to deal with it. Sometimes you all, and what I'm offering up here, you all, is that sometimes you got to let that level of anger and that level of intensity begin to dissipate, bring it down. Because if you can come down, I already told you, if I say to you all, Mother Goose Maddie, good to see you. If I say to you, Mother Goose Maddie, that I want to take time out, give me 15 minutes. And I'm doing that to bring it down. Here's another important tool around communication. Even if I want to deal with an issue right then and there, I might do this. Hold on for a second. I might just cause for a timeout in that moment and just say, hold on, give me a second. Give me a second. Hold on. I want y'all to try that when y'all in a disagreement with, and you start to see things escalate. Do that. Just tell the person, hold on, just give me 1 second, and just count and breathe. Take your time. Right, the person, y'all, because y'all used to turning up, and I need y'all to try this. Just stop for the moment and just go, hold on. And I need you to count to about 10. Here's what's going to happen. The person that is used to y'all arguments escalating, they're going to do this. What are you doing? Why? Because you all have trained each other to turn up on each other. Now you've called time out. And in that moment, and so to the question of taking the time or dealing with it later, the cool off can happen in the 10 minutes. Remember, the primary purpose of cooling off is to allow the energy to come down, because it is so hard to hear someone when the emotions are at an unprecedented level. So what you all are getting from me, good to see you, Cotton Holland, glad to have you on, y'all. I hope this is helpful. You all, I didn't knocked out 4 of them on today. How am I doing here? Antonio Lux, glad to see you on. We're talking about these 10 restoration recommendations. And y'all tell somebody about this analogy that I gave about the pre-existing health condition of the family, because that pertains to everything. You all, I want y'all to think about this here, right? I want you all to think about this. Some of us tell a lot of people, oh, I got a strong family. Oh, yeah, my relationship is strong. Yeah, I got a strong relationship. How do you know how strong your relationship is? Has it been tested? Or to use the kind of like the biblical term, when God said to Satan, have you considered my son Job? Truly is a man after your own heart. And then where Satan said he only praises you because you blessed him so much. So y'all take that analogy. What happens? What happens when someone says, Antonio Lux, when the spirit of the ancestor, or when God, or whatever you call, say, have you considered my son Lux? Truly, he is a man. Have you considered my green family? Truly, they're a family after my own heart. And then what happens when the question says, this family is only grateful and give praise to you because you blessed that family so much? So, Krista Brown, what happens in that analogy? Right? And so everything I'm offering up to you all is that the communication is very critical. It's a cornerstone of healthy relationships. Learning how to communicate. We can communicate very well, y'all, when everything is going good. When the economy is good, when everybody's happy, everybody's laughing. Communication goes very, very well when everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to happen. Then the communication is going well. But what happens when these when these curveballs of life hit you? What happens when someone gets some type of diagnosis that you didn't anticipate? What happens when someone gets let go from a job out of nowhere? What happens when there's a health condition that has suddenly kicked in? What happens when something happens to a family member and now all of a sudden the family's bond, the family's strength has suddenly been tested. And so that's why I'm saying to you all that we're talking about these restoration recommendations, and these recommendations are literally designed to strengthen the family. So I want to do a quick recap. You all, I'm going to pick up on the rest of these next week. I'm going to do a recap, but I need you all to let somebody know this here. So we're talking about 10 family restoration recommendations. And today we just knocked out 4 of them, right? But these family restoration recommendations, what I offered up to you all, are designed to strengthen the family's immune system. That's the COVID analogy that I've given. And so these recommendations that I've offered up for you all on today, out of the 10, I told you all about healing. And I said that ultimately we must begin our own healing process. A healing mindset makes listening, understanding, and forgiveness possible. And then we talked about willing, right? Being willing to acknowledge your own faults, your own shortcomings, and commit to personal improvement, and sharing that commitment, especially with those who are closest to you. Then I said number 3, which was feeling. This is the third step in restoration. And I said it is better to communicate your true feelings, such as hurt, disappointment, fear, shame, than to hide them behind a single emotion, which is anger. And I told you all about the emotional vocabulary. For some of us, I said, when we are hurt, instead of saying that what you said was hurtful to me, I moved to my emotional vocabulary, and you're full of shit. And this is bull. You're crap. Now I'm having that type of conversation, and that the true emotion then suddenly gets lost. And so from feeling, then we made our way to communicate, in which I told you that it is better to talk when emotions are low, and when it's better to talk when emotions are low, and to listen when emotions are high, but seek clarity at every turn. And what I said in terms of communicating when emotions are low and listening when high and seeking clarity, I gave you all the 4-step process in the art of listening. Good to see you, Jay. And the 4-step process in the art of listening, I said you start by listening. Then number 2, you paraphrase to demonstrate or to attempt to to demonstrate you understand what the person has said. If the person said that it's not right, then you go back. Good to see you, Doc. And I said, then you go back. I'm going to go back. I'm going to paraphrase. So did I get it right? And then step 3, I'm going to get confirmation that I understand your perspective. Did I get it right? So when my partner finally says, yes, that's the point that I'm saying. And then I go to number 4, in which I'm going to tell you whether or not I agree or disagree. And so today, you all, we just covered the 4 of the 10, right? We just covered the 4 of the 10 steps to family restoration. So we got others we're going to cover. Y'all come pick up on and join me on next week, because I got to talk about accentuate, deliberate, family, spirituality. We're going to push these, y'all, ritual and tradition. All of these are critical components that I'm telling you right now are absolutely important and critical to family restoration. And so before we close tonight, I want to leave you with this thought here, that strong communities are not built by accident. They are built through strong families, and strong families are not perfect families. They are families that heal, communicate, forgive, grow, and stay committed to one another, even when life becomes difficult. So just like the body's immune system protect us from the disease, healthy family structures protect our communities from social crisis. When family is strong, the community is strong. When the family struggles, the community feels the struggle. So tonight's challenge is simple. Don't talk about restoring the Black family, but put the restoration into action. Healing begins with one conversation, one apology, one act of love, and one commitment to do better. So I'm Dr. Gary O. White, and I want to thank each and every one of you all for joining me, the TikTok Doc, for joining me tonight. Y'all come back next week. Tell somebody, man, Dr. White just covered 4 of these 10 restoration recommendations. Y'all come back. Join me on next week. Allow us to pick up this very important communication. So until then, y'all go to my YouTube channel, the Dr. Gio White Show. You can find me on YouTube as well as Instagram. Y'all come follow me, like, share, and tell somebody what we're doing here. You all also, if you all check out tonight, every Tuesday night, I put up a new post on my podcast. For you therapists out there, I just saw a couple LPCs and other counselors. Y'all come join me and share, because tonight I'm having a great discussion on tonight, you all, on my podcast page on the need for therapists. Y'all join it, check it out, like and share. Y'all, let's go viral, because I want to get people into counseling or communication, relationship tune-up, whatever you want to call it. I want us to be intentional about getting people to go and to talk to someone. You all, there is nothing more powerful than when you can have a conversation with someone and everything that you're saying is held in strict confidence. So y'all go to my podcast, the Dr. Gio White Show, like, subscribe, and share. And when you do that, you all, you are communicating and you're building a strong community